Hello, everyone. Come on in, come on in. All right. So, as people are still logging in, I am Tracy D. Armstrong. I'm your host for today's webinar. At today's webinar, we're talking about summertime streams of income, and this is about podcasting 101. And so some of you may say, okay, well, who am I? What do I do? How can I teach you about podcasting? So let me just give y'all my little backstory. A couple of years ago, like 2022, I am a teacher. So I was in class with a student and I was teaching some stuff and he was like, "Oh, this is good, miss. You should do a podcast." And I was like, "What's that?" So for some of you that have heard about podcasting, but you don't know exactly what it is and you don't know exactly how to get into it, that's what I'm here for today. So after that student told me, yeah, your information is good information, you should do a podcast about it, did a little bit more research. So podcasting to me, it is the opportunity to bring whatever it is, whatever your passion is, whatever your niche is, niche, whichever you want to call it, to a bigger audience, to a larger audience. There's podcasts out there for everything. And when I tell you there's podcasts out there for everything, there's a podcast about literally everything. And so when I'm telling you, if you're interested in being a podcast host, you can do podcasting where you're interviewing people. You can interview them about whatever the situation, whatever the topic is that you want to interview them about. You can also do podcasts where you're just literally talking to the microphone. You're just talking to your audience about whatever it is that you want to promote, whatever your topic is that you're trying to reach a larger audience with. There's podcasts where people are just literally reading a book. Like they take their book or they take a book and they just read the book. And that is also considered a podcast. So for those of you out there who was always wondering, you never knew really, okay, what direction to go when it comes to podcasting, you can take your podcast in whatever direction you want to take it. Now, there's also podcasts where you can bring a big group of people on. You could do where people are in person in groups, or you could do podcasts where people are actually in the virtual world, like you are right now. So, just like we're doing this webinar where there's a lot of people in the Zoom, you can have your podcast where there's different people on where they can speak and they can say stuff. Like I was on a podcast last night. I've been on this podcast, but I was just listening to the podcast last night. And they had different guests were able to just pop in and out of the screen and be able to actually talk and question the host. And so you could set up your podcast like that. Now, I have multiple podcasts. I have my main one that I have right now. It's called What's Your Mess? Mental, Emotional, Social Status of Life. Now, that's the podcast that was birthed out of the classroom where I told y'all that student was saying I should do a podcast because we were talking about social and emotional learning, and I was teaching them just different ways of dealing with their situations and their emotions. And so that podcast that I did there, that was focused on encouraging people, encouraging the audience that's going through different situations in life and encouraging them, letting them know that they can come out. And I interview different people. Now, that's one aspect. Then I have a podcast, The Power of the Peace. That podcast is my book that I took and I put on audio on podcast form so that people can hear the book through my talking about it. But I don't just read the book, I read the book and I talk about the book. So that's another type of podcast. And then the third podcast that I have is called Inside the Teacher's Lounge. Now that's you can I know y'all can imagine, that is educators, former educators, teachers. We meet, we group together, and it was actually an in person where we all just kind of talked about different topics that happen in classrooms. Can't talk about everything. I know, we can't talk about everything, but that was a fun type of podcast where you're able to get situations out there, get things off your chest and things like that. So, with that being said, those are the different types of podcasts that I have. And again, I just want you to be able to tap into this podcast industry if it's something that you want to do. Now, the first step that I would say is finding your niche. Some people say niche, some people say niche. Whichever way, finding your niche, okay? Learning yourself, learning what type of topic you want to talk about, learning what type of audience you want to target. Now, what does that mean? That means that I took what I do and I turned it into a podcast because I wanted to, number one, help people. So I was like, okay, I want to help people. So how can I help them? And I took the mental and the emotional learning that I've been teaching and I put that on the platform. Now, I know some people, let me see who I have out there. Do I have any sports fans out there? Anybody out there, sports fans? So, for those of you, I see you. Okay, I've seen podcasts where there's people just on there talking about sports every day, and people tune in because they just want to hear what people have to say about the sports, whatever's going on. It could be basketball, football, it could be whatever. And they want to hear the people's opinions and they want to get the thoughts of the audience. Okay. So finding what you are interested in, and that is what you. I was on a Facebook group, y'all, and it's called it's a podcast network. And someone posted and said, well, how do you not get burnt out with doing your podcast? The key to not getting burnt out when you start your podcast is you want to pick a podcast topic that you are interested in. So it won't really feel like you're working. It'll feel like you're just having a good time. And at the same time, you can make money doing it. And that's what I tell people. Find what you enjoy doing and make money by doing it. Okay. Now, when you're figuring out your target audience, that's going to vary because with my What's Your Mess, that audience is a vast variety because I have some of my young students, they'll listen to it because they might be going through the same type of situation. But then I have an older audience because they may be going through the same type of situation. I've had a guest from, we talked about divorce to money situations to people being homeless and overcoming like all types of things. So the audience that you want, do you want to have an audience where you're trying to change lives, like persuade and influence? Or are you just wanting to do an audience where it's more entertaining? Because that's where like the Inside the Teacher's Lounge came from. Okay. Or do you want to have um, an audience that's just going to listen to you rant and just say what you want to say because you have those audiences out there too that just tune in because they just want to hear what you're gonna say today. Okay. So then the next thing, because I always hear this, I always hear, and this is one of my things. Okay, when I first started, what does it take to get started? You hear that you need all of this equipment and you need I'm gonna pull it around here. Everybody says you need a microphone. I do have a microphone. Yes, I do. However, I did not start off with a microphone. I did not start off with having this wonderful, lovely mic that we need. I didn't have that. My first podcast, I think I'm gonna pull it up so y'all can see. But I have some headphones, y'all. Look, look, start somewhere. If this is something you really want to do, start. And I'm telling you that because I look back on my first videos and I had these headphones on and I was talking to my guest and I was like, golly, I look crazy. So you don't have to have all of this equipment. You can build up to that. Like now, and I'll show you, I have lighting. So like I have a studio set up now. I have this beautiful lighting equipment. Um, but again, didn't start off with that. I started off sitting in the chair with nothing but some headphones and my phone. Okay. You have a phone, most of you. Everybody got a phone? You got a phone. If you get a phone, give me a thumbs up. You got a phone. Okay. You got a phone that has a camera. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Guess what? To me, that's the essential. Now, let's take it another step higher. If you're someone that says, "Oh, I got the money, I want to just jump in and do everything and get it," okay, you need to get, if you really want to like already jump into everything, you want to make sure you have lighting. Because if you're lighting, and I'll show you, I have this other type of lighting. Um, where I could change the tone of the lighting and of the background. I can take the lighting higher or I could take the lighting lower. Okay. So, but when you are doing your podcast, it again, that depends on the type of mood you want to create too. Because I've seen podcasts where they're in there and it's like dark, dark. But that's the tone, that's the mood, that's the vibe that they want to give. For me, I'm usually in, I leave my top kind of open because when I go to do the editing and things, I can like put stuff up here. But you may want to create your own background already. And you can do a lot of that through some of the technology and editing that I could teach you about in the master class if you decide to take the master class. Because what I will do, I will offer at the end of this, I'm going to offer a master class for everybody. Because I know I'm going to be going quickly through all of these different points and I can't get really deep into it. So, if you are interested in learning more, once we're through, I'll give you all the information on that because I just want, if this is something, if you really want to start generating an extra stream of income, doing something you enjoy, and you've always wanted to do podcasting, this is a great way to start. Okay. Now, after you have your cell phone or laptop and you have some type of lighting, the microphone is important. Not necessarily. Okay, let me rewind. The microphone isn't what's necessarily important. The sound of the room is what's important. Okay, because if you're in an area like one time, it was during the Houston storms a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't have power in my house. But I had 5 interviews lined up for that Saturday. And I didn't want to cancel 5 interviews because I was like, oh, this is some content. I'm about to get some interviews. And so I had to go to another location. But I had to remember that other location was closer to an airport. Think about it. So if you're closer to an airport, you may have the airplanes flying through. You may have that type of sound. So you want to think about, but this is the thing. It was better for me to be there because at my location, people had generators running in the background at their houses because we had just had a storm. You had chainsaws going. So that would have been picked up on the sound in all of my interviews. Okay. So remember that it's not about necessarily the most expensive or the best microphone you can get, but it's about how you set up your surroundings so that the sound can be picked up and it doesn't echo and you don't pick up a lot of other background noise. Okay. Any questions on that? Any questions on what you need as far as, I call it essential equipment? Okay. Now let's talk about content. Because I've already said you find your niche, you figure out what your target audience is. You might have a target, and that target might not end up being the target that you get. You might have a target, but it might not end up being the audience that you get. Okay. Your content is what you really want to map out. And when I say map out, planning and organizing what you're going to say, how you want to flow, because you may not say the exact words all the time, but you want to have a flow to your podcast. Because if your podcast doesn't flow, people are not going to listen. Okay? Think about it. When you are flipping through Instagram, TikTok, or whatever, what makes you stop and listen? What makes you want to listen to somebody talk for 30 minutes? You have to be able to flow. Like right now, hopefully y'all are still listening. Hopefully I'm flowing. Okay. Y'all flowing? Can I get a thumbs up? Okay. All right. We good? So you want to have engaging episodes. So like for me, I have, and not when I first started, but I'm here to help you not make some of the same mistakes that I made. Okay. But I have how I start off. I have all of the questions that I'm going to ask because for me, my what's your mess, it has the same flow because I want to make sure I hit the main points. I want to talk about their mental. I want to talk about their emotional. I want to talk about their social and how their situation affected their status of life. I want to talk about how they got out of it. How did they come through their situation? Then I talk about, okay, you came out of it. What can you tell the audience so that they can come through too? So I have a flow, but I don't just stick to that. It all depends on what my guest says. They may say something that may trigger another question, but it still flows and I still go back to the plan. Now, you want to have a game plan. So whenever you have topics, like let's say I was on the podcast from last night, like again, I wasn't on it. I was listening, but I was sending in questions through YouTube, and we'll talk about the different platforms. And they were answering my questions, but they have a flow based on the topic, but they lost the flow based on how other people were responding to the questions. So we really never got back to the ultimate topic, which can happen because you might start off and you might have a topic that you really want to talk about, but depending on your guest and depending on the flow, you may adjust it. But always have a plan on how you want to flow so that you can engage your audience and you can keep them coming back. Okay. Now let's talk about recording and editing and how to do this and posting. Okay. So all that stuff I just told you about was just how to get started. You want to make sure you figure out before you start your episode 0, you want to kind of write out, type out, what you want to talk about, how you want to go, what direction you want to take it. And every episode will have its differences because depending on what you do, if you're interviewing guests, every guest is going to be different. Now, when you are recording, so for me, I use Zoom. However, some people use StreamYard. Some people use other platforms for recording, um, which Google Meets. There's other platforms out there that you can record on. So let me tell you about Zoom for me. For me, we had to use Zoom as an educator. And I know a lot of you out. How many? I see a couple of teachers out there. Okay. I know a lot of educators use Zoom during COVID. So I got really proficient at Zoom and I learned like all the share the screen and all those things with Zoom. So that's why I use Zoom. A lot of podcasts that I have been on, they use StreamYard because StreamYard gives you other options of, having them come on the stage or leave the stage. So it is up to you to decide. I'm giving you the different ones that you can look at. Now, for me, with Zoom, the free Zoom, it's only up to a 40-minute recording. I've had interviews that have lasted over an hour. So for me, having the free one wasn't going to work for me because of the fact that I didn't want to stop my interviews at in the 40 minutes and then start another one. So I just have one level up for the Zoom. And again, podcasting does not have to cost an arm and a leg. And some people feel like it takes all this money to be a podcast host. It doesn't. I promise y'all. Okay. Now, with my Zoom, it records, it stores. I have X amount of storage that I could use. I can go back. It gives me the audio and it gives me the video. And I like it. Because I know how to manipulate it to give me what I want. Okay. You want to make sure that you are recording high quality audio. Again, it's not about necessarily the mic. Having a good mic is good. If you have the money to go get a really, really good mic, you could do that. But again, if you have a really good mic, but you're in a room that's picking up everything behind you, then that mic is going to pick up everything behind you. Okay? I get it? Now, when you record, some people, and I know some people have put things on their windows, or they like put their stuff on their walls so that they can get the really good sound. If you want to do that, that is another option of what you can do. Because when you record the audio, especially, it has to be on point. Okay. Because when you distribute this, we're gonna talk about distribution. I got so much I want to tell you. I got it all. However, I know I can't get deep into it, but join the masterclass and I'll be able to teach you more. When you are distributing, a lot of the distribution is going to be just audio. So if your audio is trash, your podcast will be trash. That right? That only makes sense, right? Okay, I thought so. So you want to make sure that you get good quality audio. Now let's talk about hosting and distribution. Hosting means like I did not. So once you start your podcasting, and then once you figure out what you want to do, and then once you record, then how do I put it out there? Actually, let me go back, because if you're gonna do interviews, if you come up with a niche and it's gonna be you want to interview people, you want to talk to people, my first thing that I did, I interviewed people that I knew. I started with my contacts. I started with people that I knew had gone through situations that would not mind discussing, but I would send them an email. Sent them an email saying, "Hey, starting a podcast. I think you would be an awesome addition to this topic." And some were like, "Yeah, yeah, no problem." But then I did have some that were like, "Nah, I don't put my business out there like that." And I have to be like, okay, you know what? That is so true, because being on people's pod when you start, because you're gonna start, some people may not want to be as transparent. So be mindful of that when you are setting up interviews. That was the first season. I'm on my season 2. So I'm on season 2 of What's Your Mess. Now, this season, I've started to connect more with, there's Facebook groups out there with people that do podcasting, with people that do speaking, that are looking to be on people's podcasts. And I was like, oh, okay. So I started off with family and friends. I started off with connections and contacts. And then kind of, after the first year, those kind of start, wearing down. People that didn't want to do it, people didn't have time, people that wanted to, got them, try to get them in. But then I was like, let me go to these Facebook groups. So when I went to the Facebook groups, people started saying, yeah, yeah, most definitely, I want to be on your podcast. I want to be on your podcast. And that is the way that I was able to set up 5 interviews on one Saturday, or, 5 on a Saturday, 3 on a Sunday. And some of you, my teachers out there, you have the summer now. You can really, really, really blow this up. Like, you can really get a lot of content during the summer. I was doing this even when school was in, because I would go and just do interviews on a Saturday, and I start at 10 a.m. to like 2. So I just take and get 5 interviews Saturday morning. That's a whole month of content if I'm only dropping a podcast once a week. Think about it. And I only worked 5 hours interviewing. We're going to talk about the editing and the back end of it and the distribution. But to get your content, once you have a plan in place, then you set it up where you have a mass email that you want to send to people, like the same email. And you could tell them, hey, if you're interested, let me know. I learned this year about Calendly, where I can create a Calendly and I send them this link and say, hey, I give them all the details of what podcast is about. And then it says, hey, if you're interested in the interview, here's my calendar. And they just now click, oh, I want 10 o'clock, I want 11 o'clock, I want 12 o'clock. And then it'll send them an email that says, bam, you're scheduled for the What's Your Mess podcast on Saturday, 1 p.m., blah, blah, blah. Then it'll turn around and it'll send them a reminder email the day before saying, hey, just a reminder, you're scheduled for this podcast. And I was like, yeah, that's another way if you're going to do interviewing. If you're going to just do you talking, schedule that in your time. Because when I was doing my book, I was like struggling because it was like just me. I wasn't on a time of interviewing anyone. So I had to really be diligent to sit down and to say, okay, I'm going to take 2 hours tonight and I'm going to read 2 chapters and I'm going to do the commentary and just get it knocked out. And then the next day, I'm going to do 2 hours for planning. All right. And someone, okay, how much time does it take? But it all depends on how much time you really want to give to it because it doesn't take a lot of time. It just takes diligently planning the time you want to spend doing it. Does that make sense? Because because I can do 5 interviews in one day and then take another day to just edit this one this week. Then I could take another day next week and then edit this one and then take another. So, or I could take 2 days, do all my interviews here on Saturday, bam, 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 for 5 hours, turn around on Sunday and take 5 hours and do all of my edits for those on Sunday. And I just did 5 episodes in 2 days, really 10 hours. So again, your podcast is what you make it and how you want it to be. Now, let's talk about the different distributions. I do want to show you this. Let me share my screen. Okay. I want to show you, I have someone on the Facebook group the other day asked, well, what is the best platform? I have I learned about this platform called Red Circle. Now, with Red Circle, I have all 3 of my podcasts on here. You can see them, right? Can everybody see that? Okay. I can upload this, but see, with Red Circle, all of this is just audio. So it's audio. So I'm gonna go to my What's Your Mess. I created a picture, and I'll talk to you about that with marketing. That's the next part I'm gonna get to. But with Red Circle, I have What's Your Mess, Mental Emotional Status of Life. I have my description. If you use ChatGPT, ChatGPT can help you come up with an amazing description for your podcast. Here, I have the description. All I did was went to ChatGPT, told them what the podcast was about, told them what I'm trying to get from it, and bam. Okay. Now, what I like about Red Circle, and I'm telling y'all this because right here where it says distribution, if you click on distribution, Red Circle will distribute to all of these. So I can go to Red Circle, I can upload my episode, it'll go out to Apple, Spotify, Amazon. I don't have YouTube set up through Red Circle because I have my own YouTube channel, and I'll show you that. Google Podcasts, and if you click here, you can also, let me see if it's going to let me, oh, it's not showing it. Well, I'll just tell you what it says. It also has iHeartRadio, Pandora, all of the other ones. Let me see. I want to make sure you see this. Because someone yesterday on the chat was like, "Well, what do you distribute to?" Here we go. Red Circle also has iHeartRadio, Pandora, all of these here. Some of these I had never heard of, or that I've heard of these. So I can take and and let me show you. They give you the direct. Okay, y'all can tell I like this one. It gives you the directions, y'all, on how to do it. It tells you step by step. Go to this, add this, enter this. Da, da, da. So if you are new at podcasting and you're just starting, it gives you the directions and it even links you to a lot of them. Okay. Let's see if I need to go back. Yeah, let me go back. So that's one thing that I do like about Red Circle because I could take the episode, put it on there one time, and then it comes out to all of the different ones. So for those of you who are interested in that, that helps. And then I wanted to show you my other one because I told you I have YouTube, but I have my podcast on Red Circle, but I also have it on YouTube. So here's my YouTube channel. Now, for those of you that say, oh, well, I don't have a YouTube channel, guess what? Creating a YouTube channel, it is so easy, but that's not what this class is about today. All right. So today I'm just showing you. So in YouTube, right here, it says podcast. Y'all see that right there. You click podcast, and guess what? It takes you to my podcast. And when I click on it, oh, look, I don't want to play. I don't want to play. I don't want to play. Pause. Oh, look. I told y'all. My first podcast, and this was episode 0. So let me explain to y'all what episode 0 means. Episode 0 is the episode that you do just introducing people to what your podcast is, what it's all about. And it's, I told y'all I had the headphones on. Like, seriously, I look back and I'm like, man, you know what? But I started, and this is my thing, start somewhere. But that's not what I didn't bring y'all here for this. If you can ignore this this over here to the right, where I'm clicking, where I'm scrolling over here, it has all of my episodes from season 1, season 2, and these are all video. Video, yes. And so, okay, you want to see one? All right, I see. I hear you. I created all of the images, and we'll talk about that. So let's go here. I created the audio. Now, this is season 2. This is I'm just saying I came a long way, y'all. Now, again, this isn't how I started. Let me go back. Let me go back and show y'all how I started. I don't even know if it's gonna show you the pic. Let me. This picture compared to. Let me go to Renee. This picture. See if it's even gonna come up. Hello, everyone. See, it didn't even come up. See, I was trying to get fancy with the roundness. I was trying, y'all. Okay, so well, my whole point of showing y'all this is to show you that you can do YouTube, okay, and you can have a YouTube channel. Let me go to my YouTube channel. Let me stop sharing. I don't know what's gonna pull up. What's gonna pull up? Okay, y'all. So YouTube is another place where you can distribute. Okay. So I do Red Circle for all of my audio because Red Circle will send it to everything else for me. Then I do YouTube because YouTube will create the video if I want, because I'm doing interviews. So I want people to see the conversation. So audio and video are separate, but I take from Zoom, my Zoom will give me the video and my Zoom will give me the audio. All I do is I upload the video to YouTube and I upload the audio to Red Circle. Okay. Now, let's talk about the marketing and the editing and the behind the scenes. So, one, oh, it's so much. Okay. Remember, have a a master class that's going to be coming up in the summer, and I want to teach you this. If you really, really want to start, I can help you start, and I can help you grow. Let's talk about marketing. The last thing, No, not the last thing. Let's talk about marketing, and then we'll talk about money. Because I talked about all these things, but I didn't talk about how you can make money. Let's talk about the marketing before we talk about how you can make money. Everybody here I know it. To get to the money. Let's talk about marketing because marketing determines the money. So once you have done all those things, you find your niche, you get your target audience, you get your cell phone, your laptop, your lights, you make sure you're in an area that has good sound. You write out the type of content that you want to talk about. And what I do too, for me, my episodes and my topics will all depend on my guests. So depending on my guest depends on the topic. But you can go in reverse if you have certain topics that you want to talk about, and then you can bring guests on that can talk about that topic. Make sense? So yesterday, the podcast that I was watching that I was on before also is called In the Trenches. Now, In the Trenches has different topics, spicy topics, like really like think of the title In the Trenches, okay? And we talked about they have topics and they just invite certain guests on to talk about topics. So if you want to do that, have your topics already written out. Like you can make a list of ChatGPT. You can go to ChatGPT and say, what are 20 topics that would be engaging to have as a podcast topic. You, of course, remember what kind of audience do you want and what are you trying to do? You trying to persuade? You trying to inform? Are you trying to entertain? Okay. Then how you market also depends on your audience. For me, I say market to every social media platform, market as much as you can, market to the people in your contacts, market to, because you never know who's going to tune in. You never know who's going to watch. Now, you say, well, how do you market? This is what I do. I take the video. I have this one episode that I did a couple of weeks ago. It released a couple of weeks ago. And the guest said so many nuggets. When I say nuggets, it was like, oh, that was good. Oh, that was good too. So what I do is I go back when I'm doing my editing and I watch the video. But as I'm watching it, I am cutting, like I am, oh, this was good. Let me take this 1 minute. Oh, this was good too. Let me cut this 1 minute. And I'm taking like 4 or 5 really good 1 minute pieces. And I'll take that 1 minute or however long it is. It doesn't have to be 1 minute. However long it is that person saying something that's really good. I just take that, I cut it out of the actual video. And let me tell you how I do that. Let me real quick. I use Canva. I do use Canva. I take the video from Zoom, I put it in Canva, but everybody does theirs different. People use different technologies. I put it in Canva and then Canva, and I use Canva, my educators, because guess what? We have Canva also. Okay. So I put it in Canva and then I just cut out the piece that I want, and then I take that 1 minute piece or whatever and make it into a reel. For those that don't know what reels are, if you go into social media, Instagram, Facebook, all those, TikTok, the little shorts in YouTube, like a minute to a minute and a half. I put some music behind it and I put the little thumbnail. The thumbnail, I hate talking jargon that everybody doesn't know if you don't do this all the time. But the picture that's at the beginning of all of my episodes, that's what's called the thumbnail. I take that and I put it in front of the little 1 minute thing and then I let it run. And how is that helpful? That is marketing to people on social media that says, hey, if you're going through a mental health challenge, listen to this person because she went through it and she overcame her mental health challenge. And she'll talk about in that 1 minute, it'll say, yes, I went through depression and I had suicidal thoughts. And, with this help at this facility, they helped me overcome. And now I'm a world renowned professional speaker. I mean, hello, if someone's listening on TikTok and they're going through a depressed state and they hear this and they hear how this lady came out, and then you have click the link for the full episode. Guess what? They go click the link for the full episode. And then in the not in the description on, let's say I'm on Instagram, and in the description, I'll say, here's the link for the full episode. But I also say, hey, if you want audio, because people have different preferences. Here's your Apple link, here's your Spotify link, here's your Amazon link, here's your Google Podcast link. And they can click on whichever link that they prefer. If they want to see it in video, here's your YouTube link. And all I do is copy and paste those links from wherever I put it out. And so that's how you can market that. And then when I was saying you could also market it through messaging, like if you have a lot of contacts, you could send them the little 1 minute snippet. And if they're gonna listen, they're gonna listen. If they're not, they're not. But guess what? You just promoted your podcast to a larger audience, which means let's talk about monetization. I got 5 minutes to talk about money. Okay. I'm gonna go back to red circle because monetization will come once you have a certain amount of downloads. How do you get more downloads? You get more downloads by getting more people, by building a bigger audience. How do you build a bigger audience? By promoting more. So, again, like I was just going through, all of the things about marketing, your marketing, the more you market, the more people you reach. The more people you reach, the more chances of making money. So if I am distributing on all of these platforms here, over here, let me see. If I click on where it says analytics, this is for my Inside the Teachers Lounge. Just go to What's Your Mess. Do you see I have these downloads? 21 here just this week. And if I go down, it tells me my performance of all, like I love this. It tells me which episode had the most downloads. It tells me what platform they listen on more. Spotify, Audible. It tells like piece a year ago, and it's getting downloads still this month. So my point to you with this is, if you are interested in becoming a podcast host, and if this is something that you would like to try, I'm willing to help you. I'm willing to help you get monetized. I'm willing to help you get marketing. Um, I'm willing to help you work through that process. So I will be offering a podcast masterclass. Okay, it's podcast masterclass. It's a 4 week class, and what we're doing, it will be a 1 or 2 hour each week, and we're going through the journey together. I offer you videos. I offer you the how tos. I go into more detail about how to do the things that I was just telling you about. Like on this webinar, I was trying to give you as many nuggets as possible. However, when you start getting into those things, a lot of times it can be confusing because, like, oh, well, she told me to do this. Oh, well, she went through this way, but how do I get into it when I go into Zoom? That's what we talk about in the masterclass. Now, let me tell you, this class that I'm offering, it was offered to me a couple of years ago for $99.99. All right. Now, I'm telling you, I know I have a lot of teachers and educators out there. I'm not doing it for $99.99. I'm giving a great deal. I call it a deal. It'll only be $49.99, half the price of that, because I know we love great deals and it's educators. And I know I have more than just educators out there. I see you all out there. I got other people out there that's interested in doing podcasts. But you get the benefits of the deal that I'm giving out to all the teachers. So if you want to be a part of this masterclass, the link will be in the comments. And put the link in the comments. The link will also be in the chat. The link will be available for you to click on, and you can register for this masterclass. So I said, when is it going to start? The masterclass is going to start the 3rd week of June. Today is June 1st, y'all. June 1st. The masterclass will start on the 3rd week of June. Okay. And for those of you who like to go ahead and stuff, sometimes, I'll have the videos and all those things available for you to be able to look at it. It'll be video, it'll be some live, it'll be some reading. Like, here, this is how you do this. Okay. So, any questions? All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining me. You all have a wonderful day.